Okay everybody, welcome to our iPad training video tutorial for our third day of training. And today we're going to be focusing on the app Notability. So there are two parts to this. First, we're going to have the intro and what can it do. Basically, and this will include telling the students what it can do specifically, giving it an introduction, not going through it, but just telling them about the possibilities. And then second, it's going to be challenge time, and this is going to be much more of a working period than the previous days have been, which is why it's probably best for you to stay in your individual sections. However, if you do feel the need to do this more as a group, you can discuss this as a team. Now, let's get started here with Notability and what it is, what it's all about. So what is it? Well, it is a note-taking app. So like you would take notes on a sheet of paper, you can just do that in Notability. So one of the key things you are able to do here is import notes. That's something that the kids will learn here towards the end. You can type. You are able to do a lot of different typing related things, changing sizes, colors, fonts, all that good stuff. You can also use a pen tool, which is something that's very nice about Notability. It is an annotation app. That's the one thing that separates this from some of the other note-taking things you may see that are just more about actual typing. But it's far beyond that that makes Notability great. There also is the ability to highlight, and with both highlighting and with handwriting, you have a lot of different options in terms of colors, the width of the ink itself, and all kinds of other things. Other things about Notability that are really impressive though. There is a built-in audio recorder, so you can record voice or audio recordings as you go through this. There are a lot of different uses for this. We're going to discuss one today, and that will be a part of the challenge with the students. There also is a built-in camera, so you are able to take a picture with a camera from within the app to actually add images to your note guides, or you could bring one in from your camera roll that came from the internet. Another interesting tactic, and it's not Firefox, but I just use that as the image here to show that there is a browser that's in here as well. So you could actually add a browser window if you would like, which is something that we did at the teacher training back in July. But nonetheless, lots of different things that Notability can do. And if you look up top here, all of these different options up here are really where you're going to be wanting to have the children and the students in your class play with. And by the way, clicking and holding on them gives you more options for the pen and the highlighter, so it's something just to be aware of. But you can see how you can change the colors, you can do a lot of different things in there, which is really useful. Something else about Notability that's very nice is that it is something that can organize all of these notes for all different classes very efficiently and very effectively. So if you look at the way that you can organize this, and this also will be part of the challenge, the children will have to make different subject areas for their different classes, and I'll show you how you can organize these at the end. And finally, the thing that makes Notability so nice above some other apps that we have that maybe are more powerful is the fact that within Notability it easily syncs and automatically backs up to Google Drive. That's huge, and that's something we're not going to set up today, but we will tomorrow. But please, when we get to that, make sure children do that, because that can be very helpful in case something happens to the iPad. They don't lose their notes, and that makes it so that it is reliable, just like you would have if it was a paper note sheet, except the difference is you can't lose the papers and you can't leave them at home or leave them at school based upon where you need to be. So this really is pretty awesome from that perspective. Now onto the challenge itself. What do they have to do? Well, first off, there are two rules. These rules are going to be in place for the rest of the challenges that we have that are going on. First, you cannot touch anyone else's iPad. Even teachers, that kind of goes for you too. Do not touch the iPads of the children. Let them figure it out. You can give them advice and tell them what to push, but they need to be the ones who actually are pushing it. That's an important thing here. Second, don't be scared or afraid to press some buttons. Please encourage the children, try it, see what happens, push it, whatever. In the case of what we're doing today, the assignment isn't really anything major, it's more fun. So if they screw something up, what's going to happen, right? Please encourage them to try to press buttons, because if they don't try, then they're not going to learn anything in the process. Now, on to the actual challenge. Here are all the things that the children need to do. They need to create folders for each of their current subject areas. They need to import the attached file from me that's in their email. It's going to be called, it's a PDF, and it's Challenge 3, I believe. They need to type some of their responses in at least 2 different colors and sizes. They need to handwrite some of their responses in multiple sizes so they can change the actual font width, excuse me. Add a picture to the location that asks for a picture, and that's going to be this actual image right here. I took a screenshot of this so they have a checklist that they can actually check off. Then once they're done doing all of the work that's in there, they need to share their note as a .note file with one of their classmates. I'll show you how to do that here in a minute. They need to give feedback to their classmates with the highlighter tool as well as the voice recorder. And they need to email the file back to that classmate as a .note file and review feedback that they get as well. That's the challenge. Now let's look at how to actually complete each of these steps. Okay, now let's take a look at the iPad itself and how we can complete this challenge and all the different checklist items that we have there. The first item that we have on the checklist is that we need to create different content areas or different classes within Notability. So we open up the Notability app. The home screen of Notability is going to take us right here. As you can see, I'm pushing on the plus sign. What you need to do is create a subject now. So subject name, let's say that I already created all the core subject areas. So let's say add in Spanish. There we go. Now I have a folder that is created for Spanish. So that's the first little thing that we have to do is just create that. We're good to go. Now for your information here as a teacher, how can we actually use this? If you click in the top right, you can see that the button there kind of changed colors. That's how you can create a new note. You see it comes up with no real name here. You can go and change the name if you would like to whatever you would like. So I'll just call it iPads. There we go. And now when I look back here, that is called iPads. We'll talk about filling the notes into other locations here in a few minutes. Now the next thing we want to do here is let's actually import a new note in here that we can use. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to choose this specific note. So this is what was in the email. I will send them an email that has all this information. We have all these different choices. This is something new to them that we haven't covered just yet. So they need to understand all the different things they can do. Now again, to get this to come up, we have this here. I have to press and hold in a very still manner. If the children's fingers are moving or bouncing or anything, it's not going to show up right for them. But I'm going to choose Open in Notability. There we go. Now it gives me this option. Should I create a new note or add this to another note? We're going to create a new note. And there we go. Now I have it. Mine adds the 3 at the end because this is the third time that I've done the test with this PDF, but yours would be different than that. Something else that we have to do that I know we have to do, so I'm just going to get to it quickly so I can actually start paying attention to the checklist, is that we have to add in the image that we have here that is our checklist. So it's right here. Again, same exact process, click and hold. Now sometimes you will be able to add things into Notability, some you can't. So for this one, this is going to give us a little bit of a problem here because where do I open it? What we're going to do is save the image, and this is going to save it to our camera roll. So once I do this, now the image is in the camera roll and I have it sitting there waiting to be used. Oops, I'll come back to that screen here in a minute. Oh, and by the way, I can talk about it right now. Whenever you are using your Blended Schools page, the same idea comes up here where you can click and hold on files and whatnot. If you have it as a file, it doesn't show up quite as cleanly. You'll have to actually open it, and then it will let you then choose to do it how you want to open it. But nonetheless, so I'm going to click on this right here. It opens it up, and then I'm going to say Open In up in the top right. And it's the same exact menu choices. So something on the side here for you in case you were interested in using that. Now, we have all these different options up top. What are the different things we can do? Well, what I'm going to do first here is add in my checklist so that I can remember what it is. So I'm going to click on plus. We have photo, take a photo, all kinds of different things. Take a photo would actually go straight to your camera live and you could take a picture of something, which I would imagine many of you could find uses for instance in science during a lab. But we're going to use photo from a camera roll right now since that's what we were just working on. I'm going to choose this specific image that I just saved in my camera roll. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger and nicer so it fits in this box pretty well. There we go. So now we have that. Okay? Now, if you want to actually edit this, I want to show you a little trick that you have to be aware of. It's one of the little tricky things within Notability. Let's say that you're on the writing tool and you try to move this picture around. It doesn't let you do it. Okay? One finger makes it draw, 2 fingers makes you swipe up and down the screen. So what you need to do, and I'm going to push the undo arrow there on the left, is get back to the text. And when you have text highlighted and then you choose these different things, you are able to manipulate the images again. Again, I'm just trying to give you as much as you can so you know this. Don't think you need to know everything. Now, let's say that you want to go in here now and you're going to do your work. What can you do? To create a text box, you tap and hold, just like what you would do pasting or something along those lines. and then it will bring up this text box for you. So if I were to create a company, I would call it, I don't know, it's called Choose to Be Great. There we go. So now I have my little text box there. You can see I just dragged the corner, and that allowed me to change the size of this. If I grab in the top middle, it allows me to change the location. And there we go. Now I have that in the location I need it to be in. I can go and add another one. Our main product would be, and let's see, I'm going to move the box over here. And you know what, let's change the font. So right here, see where it's red? If I click on that, it gives me more options. So now I'm going to change this one to be bluish. I'm going to say I'm going to sell bumper stickers. There we go. Leave that right there. Again, we can move it around if we would like. Now, let's say that the children want to write, because that's also something they have to do in here. And by the way, let's start checking this off. So create folders, we've done that. Import the attached file, done that. Type some of your responses in at least 2 different colors and sizes. Ooh, I didn't change the size. How can we do that? Let's click on here, and let's highlight it all. So we're going to push and hold and then select all. Change the font size. We'll make this one 28. There we go. So now we have more options there, and that's changed that one up. Let's come back to the top. Now I can mark that one up. Handwrite some of your responses in multiple sizes. Well, multiple sizes might be poor wording, but it's more like multiple widths. But this will be successful because, now I could just start writing here, and that would work. However, if we want to make it nice and clean, push on that little magnifying glass in the bottom right. We can then drag this over to the location that we want to be writing. So right here, I don't really want that. I'm going to erase that. And you can see now I can actually push on the writing tool down here. But I could say this would be successful because it is very well, and look what happens. Oops, that one actually didn't put in the right order that I thought it would have. Liked because, there we go, and we can just drag this over. I'm clicking and holding in the middle of this box, by the way. It is a great, and my answer is actually pretty terrible. There we go. And that's how it typically works, is it just drags over automatically to the side. So there we go, we can do that. Then let's say we want to write down here. I'm going to grab in the middle of the box, bring it over, and you know what? Ooh, I made that space a little bit too small there. It's hard to write. I'm going to click and hold, make this really thin. If you would like to consider joining this company, please contact Brad. You can see this a little bit thinner writing. Brad Wilson at 555 555. There we go. So we have all that information. So that's what we really need to get done here. Let's go back to the top, and now let's see what we have. Oops, I forgot to change the color, didn't I? It's okay though. So handwrite, and I'm going to drop down that box so I don't get confused. Add a picture, we already did that, because that's this right here. Share your note. Okay, so how do we share a note now? Next thing we have to do here is go to the export button. Again, we've been talking about this idea of the box with the arrow going out of it. That sends it somewhere, right? So we're going to email this. Now the default that you're going to see whenever you come here is that it looks like this. It's going to say choose format, then it says PDF. We don't want to send it as a PDF, because if you do that, it takes away some of the functionality. So we're going to save it, or I should say email it, as a note file. That means it will be able to be opened only in Notability, but you can use all the functions that Notability allows for you, which is good. So what are we going to do? Well, I'm going to email this to myself, just so that I can get it. Now let's see, I'm going to go back to my email. Let's see, there we go, there's my push notification from the Gmail app, something you might want to consider. And as this downloads, I'll be able to open up on Notability. We've done this before. Then we have give feedback to your classmate with a highlighter tool as well as the voice recorder. So what you can do is this. If we click next to this, we have a highlighter. And you could highlight right there while you're recording and say, you know what, that's a really great idea. I like the idea of Choose to Be Great. Bumper stickers, I don't know if that's really a good product. You're not going to make much money off that. You might want to reconsider. But as I mentioned before, it is a great idea. So what you've done now is you've actually marked up the sheet a little bit so the kids can go back and look, or the partner can go back and look at this. And you're recording your voice too. So when you send this, and remember I said to send this as a .note file, If we email it back to them as an NOTE file, they will be able to hear your feedback and see this, and if it works correctly, it actually will show you writing as you go through this, as you can see right now. Let's see. There we go. So you can see that it is showing the highlighting coming up, and it is kind of like a nice little feature. Okay, so that's a really quick way of showing you how Notability can do some of these things. If you have any questions about Notability, it is a pretty dynamic application. Please feel free to ask me, but I'll tell you this, the kids will pick up on this very quickly. Not to say that they'll know the voice recording and some of the other things, but they'll figure out how to write with it effectively and everything else very quickly. So I think you'll be very pleased with this, and I'd be very shocked if this doesn't become a daily use app for almost everybody. Okay? Thank you.